The implanted part is called retina stimulator and is completely implanted into the body. And additionally, the patient wear external parts. This is the visual interface in a form of pair of glasses and a pocket processor. Both are connected via cable. Let me tell you about how the system works. In the visual interface, there is a tiny little camera integrated behind one of the glasses, and this camera captures images from the environment and transfers it into electrical signals. These electrical signals are then sent via cable to the pocket processor, which is worn on a belt or an additional pocket. And these image signals are then translated into stimulation commands. This is very important because we need to translate it into a language that is understandable by the visual system. After the translation of the signal, it is sent back to the visual interface and then sent wirelessly to the implanted retina stimulator. The retinal stimulator receives these signals and generates very small electrical current pulses that are applied to the retina, and then the visual system is activated and the patient has a perception. Let me give you some details about the retinal stimulator now. The retinal stimulator is completely implanted into the eye and is provided with energy wirelessly using radio frequency and gets the signals from the visual interface by infrared through the pupil. The retinal stimulator consists of two parts. One is the extraocular part that is fixed on the sclera, and this part contains all the electronic that is needed for reception of energy and data, and also generates the necessary stimulation currents. In addition, the retinal stimulator has an intraocular part with electrodes that are placed epiretinally on the retina. These electrodes stimulate the remaining nerve cells of the retina, which are then transferred via the optic nerve to the brain. Both parts, the intraocular and the extraocular part, are connected via a small cable passing the sclera here in the area of the so-called pars plana. For those of you who can see, here is an example, image of an example of the retinal stimulator. You can see that the retinal stimulator mainly consists of a very thin plastic film. This thin plastic film in the intraocular part has very close contact to the retina, so that the currents are very low. On the other hand, there's the extraocular part where all the electronic is contained. The implant itself has no batteries, so if the visual interface are not used or switched off, then the retinal stimulator is automatically switched off. A little special in our device is the fixation method. For the fixation of the intraocular part, the first attack is set into the sclera from the inside of the eye, and then the implant is put over the tag and is fixated with a silicone ring. We did this because this has advantages if the surgeon needs to later explant the device. For a possible explantation, the silicone ring can easily be removed, and then the implant can be removed without removing the retina tag, which always has a risk of retinal detachment. You may ask, why should this device be implanted? This can be, for example, if after a long time new generations of devices are available, and then the patient want to benefit from a newer generation, and we could decide if the device is explanted and the new one is implanted. Here's an example shown about the visual glasses. It has the tiny camera behind one of the glasses and also electronics to provide the retinal stimulator with energy and data. Also an electronic zoom is implemented so that the patient can decide if they want to have a large visual field, for example for mobility reasons, or a smaller visual field to see more details. The pocket processor is for translation of image data into simulation commands. We do this with image processing algorithms and special designed algorithms to generate the stimulation commands for a retinal stimulator. The system is highly adaptable, and we think this is very important that the system is adaptable to the individual patient needs. We found that the patients are all individual and need individual stimulation parameters. And also, in many patients, the stimulation parameters are different from one electrode to the other. The parameter tuning will be done in the rehabilitation phase after implantation. This pocket processor also contains the battery to provide the whole system with energy. This system is not yet commercially available, but we have done clinical trials and we will do clinical trials in future. And how this works will be explained by Dr. Keserö. I give the floor now to Herr Keserö.
Thank you very much. As Dr. Hornig already mentioned, I am one of Professor Richard's co-workers at the University Eye Hospital here in Hamburg, and I'm working for the last few years together with Professor Richard and with Dr. Hornig on this project. And I want to give you an insight from the doctor's point of view into this IRIS epiretinal implant system. As Dr. Hornig already said, we have an implantable device, the so-called retinal stimulator, that is surgically introduced into the eye. What do we do there? And to implant the system, we have to do two surgeries. We have to do one preparing surgery around about 4 weeks before implantation, together with a pars plana vitrectomy. The vitrectomy is to remove the vitreous body from the inside of the eye, and we do a cataract extraction combined if needed, and we do a retinopexy. And the retinopexy is a laser treatment of the peripheral retina to avoid retinal detachment after the surgery. After that preparing surgery, we do the second surgery, the implantation, around about 4 weeks later, with the placement of the retinal tech. The retinal tech attaches the implant on the surface of the retina. We do a scleral tunnel incision at the pars plana site to introduce the implant into the eye. And we put the device on the tech and fixate it, just like Dr. Hornig already mentioned. After that, regular wound closure. The advantages of the IRIS implant are the standard surgical procedures. We don't have many new things to use during surgery. We use mostly routine vitrectomy tools and tools that are regularly used for cataract surgery or something else. We don't perform a retinal detachment.